right, so this is recruiting. This is what happens. The four-star defensive lineman, Floyd Boucard, I think what a lot of people would say was Oklahoma's most coveted or one of their most coveted recruits in this class. He decommits. And for some Oklahoma fans, I think this might shock you because he didn't actually visit Miami this past weekend. There were some reports that he was going to be out there. And a kid from Miami Central, it just kind of made sense. So with him not visiting Miami, it's weird that he would decommit. But at the same time, everybody knows Brent Venables' policy. And if Floyd Boucard wanted to continue to be recruited by other schools, then it makes sense that he decommitted. So Oklahoma now only has 2 defensive linemen in this class. And after Floyd Boucard decommits, you got to ask yourself the question, what's next? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about some targets that you've seen Oklahoma potentially be interested in, guys that they could potentially go target. We're going to keep you guys in the loop here. So join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and you hit the subscribe button. I want you guys to be a part of the community here. Remember, recruiting's kind of been our forte. During the season, though, we talk a lot more about the team, what's going on throughout the week. So, yeah, and especially since now Brent Venables tries to get his classes pretty much committed by June or July. Not a lot of recruiting to talk about, but we'll talk about this. So, all right, man, this one hurt. This one hurts because when you look at Floyd Boucard, he was like 320 pounds. Like, this was a guy that you looked at and said, he came in, he was an immediate starter, a guy that made an immediate impact for you right away. And so last night, he announces his decommitment, says, I would like to thank the University of Oklahoma for welcoming with open arms. It's after much consideration, thought, and conversations with my family that I've made the decision to decommit, and I am now reopening my recruitment to all schools. Now, this is intriguing here because Todd Bates was one of the first schools that was in his recruitment back when he was in Canada. So Todd Bates and Floyd Boucard and that family, they have a tight relationship. So I would imagine, although Floyd Boucard's not committed now, Todd Bates is probably going to try to continue to push to get him in this class. But as I told you guys a couple weeks ago, Todd Bates is going to want to go after a 4th defensive lineman, right? Even with Floyd Boucard in there, he was going to want to go after a 4th. And so the question was, who was that 4th going to be? And a lot of you guys under Florida State's demise have brought up the name Xaven Wynn. Now, I talked to a Florida State insider the other day and just said, hey, like, there's kind of been some conversations about maybe Xaven Wynn wanting to test the waters, see what's available out there. Like, have you heard any smoke around that? Do you think Oklahoma would be a potential school of destination? And it was quite frankly told to me like this. Georgia's the school. If he's looking around, Georgia is going to be the place that he's looking at. I'll read you the quote right here. All we have heard is Georgia smoke recently. So, yeah, Xaven Wynn's looking around, but it sounds like UGA is going to be the school of destination, which is interesting because when you look at some of the top defensive linemen in this class, there's a lot out of the state of Georgia, Xaven Wynn being one of them. And so I've kind of asked the question in the Discord, and I'm not saying there's smoke around this, but I want you guys to chime in the chat here. Do you think Oklahoma starts kicking the tires around on a guy like Elijah Griffin or a Justice Terry? Or shoot, there's even another kid out here in Atlanta, Georgia, Chase Linton, 4-star kid, 6'4", 215. Do you think Oklahoma starts kicking the tires around on some of those uncommitted kids in the state of Georgia? Because that's Todd Bates' pipeline, right? That's where he has made his name in recruiting. And, I mean, it doesn't hurt you. If you go out there and you beat Tennessee, you beat Auburn next week, you're going to gain a lot of momentum on the recruiting trail. So would it hurt? No. Do you think he does? I have no idea. Would be interesting to find out. Now, obviously, some more realistic targets I think we need to look at. Xavier Powell, this is a guy that we talked about all cycle, 36 total offers from schools across the country. He's been to Oklahoma multiple times. Obviously, he's on a team currently with a bunch of OU commits, currently committed to Wisconsin. But this is a guy that I think could fill the void of Floyd Boucard pretty easily in terms of what his size and weight is. I mean, guys, I think he wants to be a part of this class. It's just a matter at this point of is Todd Bates actually going to push for him? Another guy that I think maybe Oklahoma could circle back around to if they wanted to, Christian Evans. If you guys remember him, we had him here on the podcast, currently committed to Virginia Tech. He's only been to Oklahoma one time for a visit, so you probably would want to get him back on campus for an in-season visit, which I think for any of these guys that are committed, that's the case. If you can get them back on campus for an in-season visit, you're going to feel good about it. And like I said, right now, you're only looking at one potentially, but Oklahoma might go for two here, especially since you're losing Floyd Boucard. That was a pretty big loss. So the one name, though, that I think everybody needs to be paying attention to, this is the one that intrigued me the most. Doesn't have an OU offer yet. We've been talking to the Joseph, though. I think there's some hope and optimism that he will be getting an offer. He just needs to get on campus, right? And I'm looking at this week, right? Is he a late addition to the visitor list for Oklahoma and Tennessee? But that's Joseph Mabochu, 6'4.5", 275, out of Loganville, Georgia, out of Grayson High School. This is intriguing because Oklahoma is going after several kids out of Grayson High School in the 2026 class, a 5-star linebacker, a 4-star linebacker, and a couple other guys. I know he's a 3-star. A lot of you guys see that at 773rd ranking. He's got 20 offers, but you got to look at the offers, right? Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Texas. I think Tennessee's in there. South Carolina's in there. Auburn's in there, right? So these are schools you primarily look at when you look for defensive line offers, right? These are guys that recruit defensive linemen well and also put them into the NFL. So although he's a 3-star kid, just like Floyd Boucard, probably going to play higher than a 3-star. His ranking's just probably a little lower. Now, another kid that I was kind of looking through on the offer sheet, just kind of seeing, okay, like, who's interesting? Who could Oklahoma go after that, doesn't have an offer or has an offer that we're just not talking about? Xavier Hardy was an interesting one. A JUCO recruit out of the state of Mississippi right now. He's at East Mississippi Community College, originally from Macon, Georgia. Has a total of 13 offers, a bunch of Power 4 offers, guys. Oklahoma offered him on July 7th. This one somehow slipped through the cracks in terms of all of us just kind of looking at it. He's taking visits to Arkansas, Mississippi State. Here's the deal. You're trying to fill up this defensive line room. You're trying to do what Alabama has done so well over the past couple of years. You're trying to stack that talent. And we've seen Oklahoma go to these community colleges and get good kids. So Xavier Hardy might be an interesting target if you're an Oklahoma fan to pay attention to. Not saying we need to hang our hats here. It seems like South Carolina, who's gotten 3 visits, might be the team to watch here. But, I mean, this late in the cycle, there's not a lot of defensive linemen left. So as I said earlier, you don't have an offer out to Justice Terry. So maybe you throw an offer out there. Maybe you circle back around to Elijah Griffin, right? And maybe you play the NIL game here because you're going to have to. I know that in the transfer portal, there's some potential hopes of some really good kids coming out there. So that might be an area that Oklahoma just is kind of waiting on, kind of like they did with Dominic Williams, right? You kind of heard some rumblings, but nothing too concrete there. So maybe you guys kind of hold out, seeing what looks in the transfer portal this offseason. But I would also say, hey, throw an offer out to these 5-star kids. Try to get them on campus. See if you can sell them on the sole mission and the idea of Oklahoma. You got a bunch of big games this year, a bunch of big-time atmospheres. You have the opportunity to really show out for these kids and make them believe Oklahoma is a place, not only one, they want to come play at, but 2, a place they can come get developed and go to the NFL. Dominic Williams, if he gets drafted, obviously that would help you out tremendously in that campaign. So, guys, that's it for defensive line recruiting. I think this was an interesting topic to talk about, and I want to hear from y'all. So make sure you're joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments below. And if you made it this far and you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and you hit that subscribe button.